Guys, my name is Josh Wagner with Dingus Fire Company. I'm with the Illinois Bullard distributor. So first of all, thank you very much for purchasing Bullard. You guys will love these imagers. They're great imagers. A couple years in development from the Bullard techs down there. Quick background on Bullard for those that don't know about Bullard. They're a fifth generation family owned company. They're based out of Lexington, Kentucky. So everything's 100% American made down there. They actually invented the first hard hat back in the early 1900s. So if you look at the Bullard logo, that's the top of the ridges of a hard hat. So quick background on them. When the thermal imaging got declassified from the military in the mid-90s, Bullard got involved with it, so they've been doing thermal imaging since the mid-90s. It actually came from the Navy. It came from battleships, and they got declassified from there. So over the years, they've obviously had different models come out. So you guys have purchased the NXT, which is Bullard's newest model, NFPA 1801 certified model. So what we'll do today is just a quick thermal imaging class, like concepts of it, applications of it, real quick, not meant to insult anyone's intelligence. I've been around a long time. And then we'll go through the cameras at the end real quick. Cameras are simple. We make them that way on a reason. When you're crawling down a hallway, the last thing that we think you should have to do is toggle through different color palettes and menus and modes and different buttons. So we like simplicity, so the cameras are real simple. This little Paul Combs cartoon here. Not sure how to use it, but sure cool having it. I don't know what to take. Obviously, it's an old Paul Combs with the size of the tip. So we're talking about thermal imaging. What we're talking about? We're talking about infrared radiation, or what we call IR. And what is infrared radiation? It's just a form of energy that we perceive as heat. It's part of the electromagnetic spectrum. So if you look down here, you can see your radio waves are up here, your gamma waves are here. This is right where the human eye can see, is visible, and infrared falls just out that. So that's why we use cameras. Where does it come from? It comes from three different things. Passive is anything that absorbs it and dissipates it, any inanimate object, a desk, a chair, wall, whatever it may be. Active is us, anything that's living, us and animals, and then direct is anything that creates energy that's non-living, i.e. a generator, the sun. Sometimes people get infrared and night vision confused, the difference between the two of them. Night vision just simply amplifies any existing light, so the stars, the moon, street lamps, where infrared radiation, we're picking up the heat signature of something. Here's what night vision will look like, and here's what infrared looks like. Some principles of infrared radiation: it won't penetrate through glass. So for the officers, when you get out, if you guys do 360s here, if you're doing a 360 around the building, you won't be able to use the thermal imager to look through glass windows. It also won't penetrate through water. I always use the example, if anybody ever watches Discovery Channel and Shark Week, they got the people like bobbing in the water and the sharks are surrounding them, and you see the shark underneath the water with infrared. It's BS, because IR doesn't penetrate through water. And the reason why IR doesn't penetrate through water is because water molecules are very large, and it has a hard time making its way through the molecules, where smoke particles are very small, so the IR can make its way through smoke particles very easily. Steam or fog, it may or may not, depending on the density of it. The basics of a TI, so this is kind of what the thermal imager looks like inside. This line here represents the infrared radiation coming through the camera. This here would be the front of the camera. We use what's called a germanium lens in the front of the camera because we can't use a glass lens. So, gentlemen, welcome. We just started, sorry. So we use what's called germanium lens because we can't use a glass lens because IR won't penetrate through glasses, you just found out. So this is actually a natural element. It's on a periodic table. So the infrared radiation comes through that lens. It goes into what's called a microbolometer shutter. What that is, it's kind of like a centrifugal pump on an engine. It spins, but instead of bringing water in, it brings the image into the camera, and that spins. These cameras now, that shutter runs twice as fast as older models do. These run at 60 hertz, where the old ones ran at 30 hertz. So what that means is you get a more fluid video, you get less screen freezing. So as you're scanning a room, the screen won't freeze up on you like older models used to, where it used to be kind of choppy and used to keep freezing on you. This won't happen. As it goes through the microbolometer, it goes into an electronic signal board that converts it to an image that we see on the screen. These cameras have what's called automatic gain adjustment, or high sensitivity and low sensitivity. Right now, as we turn the cameras on in this room, they start in high sensitivity. When the camera senses 300 degrees, it'll switch to low sensitivity. That's so it doesn't burn the engine out. It's automatic, it does it by itself, you don't have to worry about anything, but be cognizant of it because you'll get a quick screen freeze. It's 0.3 of a second, it's fast, and one of the videos that I'll show you later, you'll see that in there. There's two videos in here that we couldn't get to work the other day via the prompter, but it's on a computer, it works on the computer. The PowerPoint will be saved here, so if you want to watch those videos, come back, you can watch them on here. For some reason, they wouldn't transfer over to the projector though, so I'm not sure why. Temperature measurement, and when I show you some videos and some pictures, this will make sense a little bit more, but there's two different temperature measurements on the camera. So in the middle of the screen, when you look at these cameras, there's a little box. It used to be a crosshair, now it's a little box. Wherever that box is pointed at is going to be the surface temperature of whatever you're picking up. There'll be a digital temperature readout in the bottom right-hand corner. So wherever that box is pointed at, that's going to be the surface temperature that you'll see in the bottom right-hand corner. The colorization on the camera is different. That gives you ambient air temperature, the colorization. So this is Bullard colorization here. So anything that shows up, the colorization starts at 500 degrees. So from 500 to 800, you'll get your yellow colorization. From 800 to 1,000 will be orange. And anything that's 1,000 or above will be red, what we call super red hot colorization. So that's an absolute scale that never changes. Those colors never change. The temperatures never change. So you always know that if I have 1,000 degrees, I'm talking flashover temperatures. Get some water on it, cool it down, disrupt the thermal layering. This is an older picture of an older imager, so this is now a little box, and then you'll have a digital readout temperature down here. But this is just showing you that it's pointing at this couch here, and you're showing 300 degrees. If you had your digital readout, it will show 300. But up here, you have that colorization. So you have that 500, 800 range and that 1,000 range right above it. These are the two videos we couldn't get to work yesterday, so they just do, one's a flashover simulator, does a good job of showing you the colorization. So if you guys want to go back and take a look at it, for some reason I don't know why I won't look. The optics told you in front of it's made out of that germanium lens. Question sometimes we get is how far away can you see with a thermal imager? Well, it depends on whatever hot it is you're looking at and what's its background surrounding. So obviously right now we're going in the winter time, we're 98.6 degrees, standing outside in the middle of a 30, 20 degree day, we're going to stand out. In the middle of July, when it's 90 degrees out, we're going to blend in with our environment a little bit more, so it'll be harder to see. So when you're not in that colorization mode, under that 500 degree, just like past models, the warmest objects will be your lighter shades, and your cooler objects will be your blacker or your darker shades. Contrast, like I just talked about, in the middle of July, it's 90 degrees outside, we're going to blend in with our environment a little bit more, so we'll have a low contrast. Even though you can see the outline of the person here, you can see that the color kind of matches with their environment. High contrast, two distinct different colors. This person's cooler than their environment here. Reflected radiation. IR likes to reflect off things, likes to bounce around. So when you're looking through the thermal imager, just be cognizant of that, because say you're looking through the thermal imager and you think you have two doorways here, and if you got to bail out real quick, you actually don't have two doorways. You have one doorway here. The IR is coming through here, the radiation hitting this material here, and then making it look like you have two exits. So you can tell that the real exit's a crisp, cleaner picture, where the other one's kind of fuzzy. And if you think you might have reflected radiation, hold the imager up, see if you see yourself wave. Industrial kitchen stainless steel likes to bounce around a lot, so if you find yourself in that situation. Here it's a picture, it looks like that the fire's inside the house, but it's actually behind him. You can kind of see their silhouette here taking the picture, but it's just bouncing off the glass behind him. So again, IR will penetrate through glass when you're doing a walk around 360 of a house. Using the thermal imagers for things that you wouldn't normally think about. You pull up to an MVA in the middle of the night, you got a car roll over, you got somebody unconscious, ejected, you want to know how many people you have. The lighting's kind of crappy in the area, pull out your thermal imager, do a scene survey, look around. Don't mean to tell war stories, but a couple years ago, we're almost at the stroke of midnight on New Year's Eve, we had a guy T-bone a freight train in a van. He got ejected, he was unconscious, we didn't know how many people we had. So the next in truck company and another engine, they took their ticks, and it was a wooded area. They walked around the whole wooded area just to make sure there's nobody else laying in the woods somewhere. So using it for stuff like that. Go back to that in a second. You got to roll over, unconscious person, look at the heat signatures of the seats. Obviously somebody who's driving the vehicle, is there heat signature here in the back? Is it foolproof? No, but something, tool, put in your toolbox to see, hey, maybe more people were in that car. Motorcycle, same thing, two distinct different heat. So there's more than likely two people sitting on that motorcycle. Going back to this one, this is an older picture, but water rescue again, they have to be completely, if they're completely submerged underwater, you won't be able to see them. They have to be partially above the surface in order to see them. Patient assessment on EMS calls. I've personally never used it for this, but somebody lops off a finger and a piece of machinery, or lops off a hand, pull up the thermal imager, see if you can find it if it's stuck somewhere. This is obviously a very old thermal imaging picture. It looks like Bigfoot here, but he's got some frostbite digits, it looks like. So using it for maybe hypothermia or heat injuries. Basic firefighter stuff. When you're using it for search, start at the ceiling, you're looking at your thermal layering, looking at temperatures. What am I looking at here? Going down to mid-level, you're looking for your doors, looking for your windows, your exits. Going down to the bottom, you're looking for people. Hazard identification, smells and bells type stuff, we do that all the time, we go to a lot of places like that. You go to some kind of manufacturing factory, there's a smell in the area, you don't know what it is. I have no idea what this piece of machinery is, but I do know that looking through the thermal imager, these are running a lot hotter than these are behind it. Is that normal? Is that supposed to be that way? Identifying areas to shut down, grab a shop foreman, grab a worker, show them, hey, is this normal? Hazmat, you can use it for hazmat. However, the product has to be either in a solid or a liquid state. It can't be in a gaseous state. The thermal imager won't pick it up in a gaseous state. And whatever the product is, it has to affect the external temperature of the container as well too. But if you get a spill, you get a 55-gallon drum down, you want to know how much product's left in there, try using the thermal imager. Here it works for this one. You can tell you got two 55-gallon drums. They're about half full with whatever product is in there. So that's it. That's just a quick down and dirty basics of thermal imager, real easy. So the camera that you guys have is called the NXT. I put the QXT up here, but that's wrong. The QXT is just the non-NFPA version of what you guys have. You guys have the NFPA version. So there's really no difference between the two of them. So this camera, brand new camera in development for about 3 years from Bullard. Brand new LCD display. It's a 3.5-inch display. I told you about that microbolometer that runs twice as fast at 60 hertz. And then there's a new engine inside. The new engine inside is what we call ICE technology, image contrast enhancement. And what that means is it does three things. It makes edges of things pop really well when you're looking at them, so it gives it more detail to the picture. It does a great job of transparency, colorization. So when there's a very hot thing next to a very cold thing, so i.e. a victim or a firefighter standing next to a hot scene, you can distinctly see them differently. Past imagers, past models that would red out or blare out, where this one doesn't do that. And you got good transparency, colorization. And then the longer that you hold that imager at a scene, the better the detail will get, especially at a hot scene, especially in that colorization mode, anything of 500 degrees or above. So if you just scan by something real quick, if you stop and hold it there for a second, the definition in the camera will actually get better for you. So this is exactly what your screen will look like here. This here, and we'll go through what all these markers mean in a second, but this means that you're in that low sensitivity that automatically changes. So you can see you're above 300 degrees, so this will come on here. When you're under 300 degrees, that'll go away. So just be cognizant of that. That just means that you're in that high and low sensitivity range. Here's your battery indicator, and then here's your digital readout here on the side. And again, wherever that box is pointed at, that's giving you your digital readout temperature here on the side, on the bottom. Here's a quick little video. So this video was actually taken with the predecessor to the camera that you guys have. So the cameras that you guys have a little bit better technology inside, a little bit better picture. But this does a good job of showing you. You can see the thermal layering here on the side of the wall. You'll be able to see flow path here. You can see the details in the bricks. When the firefighters here walk down the hallway, you'll be able to see the detail in them. Then they'll turn and walk into a burn room. Everything that's over here wouldn't be on your camera. Just everything here will be on your camera. So here in a second, they'll show you that automatic gain adjustment where it flips. I'll point out as soon as it's about to happen. So it's going to happen right now. So that's how quick it is. 3 times in a second. So now that's going to happen again right here. And then he'll get out of the way here and he'll walk next to the fire. And right there, it happened one more time. So past imagers, this would all be redded out. You wouldn't be able to even see through here. You can see the individual wood planks in the pallet. How well you can see a firefighter next to the fire. So it does a good job of showing that. The other two videos also do a really good job of showing the colorization. So I don't know why I can't get it on there. I apologize. Here's the specs of the camera. So the camera's 2.4 pounds with the battery. These cameras have an internal battery, a lithium-ion battery. Bullard used to use, in the past models, they used what was called nickel metal hydride. And nickel metal hydride, the reason why they use that, holds up to heat better. And because the batteries used to be exposed at the bottom of the camera where you locked it into place, that's why they use that. Lithium-ion batteries are much more efficient battery. It's a better battery, longer life, longer runtime. So now that it's completely sealed inside the camera, we're able to use lithium-ion batteries now. These cameras are extremely durable. I'll take this camera off anybody. The reason why they're so durable is there's electronics are inside. Around that is a hardened case foam, and then around the hardened case foam is what's called thermoplastic. Same thing fire helmets are made out of. So these things are made to be used on a fire ground. If you drop it down a flight of stairs, if it gets nailed with a hose line, it's okay. Now with that being said, we are firefighters, and if you are trying to break it, you will succeed. If you slam this thing down as hard as you possibly can, you will break it. It's still a piece of electronic equipment. However, it's made to be used on the fire ground. And then we'll talk about cleaning it up and stuff too. And these can be submerged underwater for 30 minutes. They're rated for 30 minutes. So if you want to dump them in a bucket to clean them off and stuff like that. So extremely durable. So that's why it's because that thermoplastic outing as well. Like I said, the power source is that lithium-ion battery internal. The camera has a 5-year warranty, and the battery has a 5-year warranty as well. And then 3.5-inch LCD display, like I told you earlier. Went through all this already. Colorization. Startup time is less than 4 seconds. And then you get a 6 to 8 hour runtime on it. Electronic thermal throttle. So this is probably the most misunderstood part of our imagers. So what electronic thermal throttle is it gives you a blue colorization at any temperature, not just that 500-degree mark. And it's an investigative tool, smells and bells type stuff. Burnt out light ballast, bad HVAC units on a roof. PD calls, he says, hey, I got a guy who just robbed a bank, he's hiding in the woods, let me use your thermal imager. That's where thermal throttle comes into great use. So to activate thermal throttle, well, first of all, let's go through the just basics of the camera. To turn it on, there's a power button here on top. Just to press it once, and you get a 4-second startup time. And now you're in normal operating mode, you're good to go. So now you'll get your colorization at 500 degrees, you get your temperature readout. You don't have to worry about doing anything else in normal mode. To get the thermal throttle mode, because this is the NFPA version camera, there's an extra step. And the purpose of the NFPA 1801 certification is to kind of standardize thermal imaging across the board, regardless of manufacturer. So if you pick up a Bullard or you pick up an MSA, when you first turn it on, they all work the same way. To get to the proprietary stuff, the bells and whistles, you have to go into a second mode, i.e. the thermal throttle. So to get to that one, there's 2 buttons here underneath the Bullard logo here. You just click down on the left one. You have to hold it down for a second, and a little box will come up in the bottom left corner. That tells you that you're now in that second mode, what we call basic and basic plus mode. So now in basic plus mode, you can get the thermal throttle. Now to get the thermal throttle, you just click the button one more time, the left button, and now you'll see some blue colorization. You'll see it says TT on there. And I'll show you some video and some pictures on that too. So now you're in thermal throttle mode. So now you make the adjustment on it. You throttle up, throttle it down. So say that scenario where, hey, PD calls, he says, I got a guy hiding in the woods, activate thermal throttle, come down so you see just a little bit of blue on the face. Now it's set to 98.6 degrees. So anything that shows up blue on the imager is going to be 98.6 degrees or hotter. So it's a frame of reference. So burnt out light ballast, bad HVAC unit on the roof, you're on the roof, point at the first HVAC unit you come to see just a little bit of blue, now walk the line. Okay, that one's not blue. Okay, that one's not blue. Okay, this one's really blue. And the rest of them aren't. That one's running hotter than the rest of them. So hot spots in the wall, stuff like that. To get out of thermal throttle mode, just double click both buttons at once. You get back in normal operating mode, or turn the imager off, turn it back on, it goes back into normal mode. So you'll know you're in normal mode because you'll have a colorization bar on the right side. When you go into thermal throttle mode, that disappears. You may or may not have blue colorization depending on where you last set it, but you'll have that will go away, the color bar, and then it'll say TT on here. That's how you know you're in thermal throttle mode. So just remember, thermal throttle mode, non-fire stuff, smells and bells, investigative type stuff. So here's the imager controls here. Here's your power button. Just quick to press once, turns it on. It'll light up solid white, that means it's on. When it's in the charger, which we'll go over the charger, you guys already have them hooked up, right? Yeah. But I'll show you pictures of it. When it's in the charger, this will have a solid green if it's charged, or it'll pulsate green for a second while it's processing. And if it's not, if it still needs to be charged, this will pulsate red. If it pulsates amber or orange for any reason, there's some kind of problem there with it. This is that thermal throttle here, so long press that one gets you into that second mode, and then click it again, that gets you to thermal throttle. There's a right button on here, you guys don't have to worry about it, besides going back and forth for thermal throttle. But there's other options that you could get, recording capabilities in Zoom, which I don't recommend. So those aren't on here, so you don't have to worry about any of that on the right button. Your on-screen displays, this is what it looks like. So this is that low sensitivity mode indicator I told you, that so when you reach 300 degrees above, this will come on. Don't have to worry about that, you don't have recording capabilities. This is what that TT looks like with the corresponding number. So it'll say TT and there'll be a number underneath that TT. The number doesn't mean anything, it's ancillary. It's actually for the engineers at Bullard. I've been asking them to remove it from the screen for the last couple of years, they haven't yet. So don't pay attention to the number. Just pay attention to know that you're in thermal throttle mode, and then pay attention to the colorization on there. You don't have to worry about the zoom indicator, that's not on there. USB indicator, there's a backup way to charge these cameras. So if you swap out of your rigs, and obviously your truck charger is hardwired into the rig, if you go into a spare rig, you just pull back this rubber tab here, and there's a USB connection here. Each camera came with a green cord. You can charge it that way. You can plug into a 12 volt into the wall, or it can plug into your rig laptop through USB if you want to charge it that way. So just a backup way to charge it. And I'll show you a picture of that too. But when you're plugged in, that will come on the screen. Here's your middle indicators. This flash means that there's something wrong with the camera. Very, very rare that you'll see that. If that flashes for any reason, let Lieutenant Payton know. Call me, we'll come out and figure out what's going on. This here is that box again I told you. So again, wherever that's pointed at, that's your surface temperature here. And then in the middle is your battery indicator. So your battery indicator, when you have full power, you'll have 4 green. When you go down to 75%, you'll have 3 green. When you go down to 50%, you'll have 2 yellow. And when you're down to 25%, you'll have 1 red. Even when you have 1 red, you're still at 1.5 hours, 1.5 hours of battery runtime. You guys have a truck charger, so when these are not in use, Bullard recommends they stay in the charger. The chargers are trickle chargers, they won't overcharge it. Lithium ion likes to be topped off. You don't ever have to drain these down to condition them. Always leave them in a charger when not in use. If you, for some reason, leave it out and leave it on, when you get less than 5 minutes of battery, this will start flashing. The battery indicator will start flashing, means it's about to shut down. So this is your basic use, that's what it looks like. Here's your colorization, exactly what your screen will look like. And then this is your thermal throttle. When your thermal throttle, this will look like. Your blue colorization, your TT, the number that doesn't mean anything that's on there, and then the color bar is gone. So color bar is there in normal mode, color bar is gone in thermal throttle mode. That's how you know you're in that. This is what the truck mount charger looks like. Here. So the truck mount charger actually wirelessly charges the imager. Nothing plugs in. It locks into place because it's a truck charger, so God forbid if you get in an accident, it won't come flying out at you. But it actually wirelessly charges like a smartphone because of that internal battery. There's some light indicators on the charger as well, on right here and on the other side. When they're white, it just means that the imager has power to, or the charger has power to it. When they turn blue, it means that it's reading the imager and it's charging the imager. And then you'll have the imager colorization here, either green or red, on that button, and this will be blue here. If these lights flash amber or orange, there's some kind of problem with the charger. Here's that USB connection I was telling you about. There's a cord that came with it. You just fold back that poly cover and then pop it in there, and then 12 volt or USB. Comes with the lanyard, pretty self-explanatory. Locks on the back of a D-ring here. Hook it to your gear or your BA, whatever you like. Care and maintenance. Like I said, these can be completely submergible underwater, so if you get a good fire, you can fill up a bucket with some soapy water, dunk it in there, give it a good cleaning. This screen here is actually a protective screen, not the real screen. So if you get a really good fire, sometimes some condensation and dirt and stuff can get in here. Just little 4 screws here, you can take this off, give it a good cleaning, and just put it back on. So the real screen's back here. If these get cracked or whatever, I keep a truckload of them in my car, a box of them, come out, replace them. So all field replaceable. At some point, these bumpers will get all scraped up, and this bumper, I keep all this in my car, come out, replace it, no big deal. So just remember that these can be submerged. They're rated for 30 minutes. If you get some stubborn smoke stains on there that you can't get off with soap or water, Elky preps from the ambulance work really well to clean them off. So here's all that field replaceable stuff I was telling you about here, the rubber boots, the guards and stuff that I keep. And here's those screws here on top. That's it. Pass around, any questions? I know it's afternoon training, so try to make it quick.
Let's see.
The post-lunch is never
All right, next, you can
fun.
kill that.